Hello, Jason. It's Monday, March 24th, and as you can see, I've rearranged my room again. I swear this will be the last time for a while. Probably. I want to start off by saying that I really enjoyed your first Badass Mother Friday video last week. It's important to remember that most people only follow about half of the Olympics because they continue going on with the Paralympic Games immediately afterwards. And as you rightly pointed out, Paralympic athletes usually have to try even harder than Olympic athletes to perform in their sports. And that's what's so inspiring about the Paralympic Games specifically. They're not performing to the peak of human capabilities, they're performing beyond human capabilities. And at the end of the day, each and every athlete at the Paralympic Games has said, I'm not going to let my circumstances ruin my ability to perform. So let's take a moment and just congratulate not only all of the Canadian athletes who performed and won medals, but all of the Paralympic athletes. And quick side note, I agree, the medal counts seem a little bit suspicious considering the host nation, destroyed everyone else. But considering recent events in the news, I think it's best if we don't poke the bear over something so superficial as medals. I also wanted to comment on your reference to Lost in your previous video. Don't tell me what I can't do! To be honest, I don't know why John Locke just sounded like a hillbilly, but whatever. As you well know, Lost is pretty much my favorite show that's ever existed. In fact, it's one of the reasons that I went to university in the first place. I originally went as a film studies student because I wanted to get involved in making something just as grand and just as epic as Lost. But I eventually decided to switch into English because I found that that was a better avenue for pursuing my dream. And, quite frankly, it turned out to be a better avenue for understanding Lost as well. So, in honor of a show that's turned out to be quite a large influence in my life, I've decided to do a top 5 list of my 5 favorite quotes from Lost. Number 5. We're not going to Guam, are we? Quite frankly, I love this quote for 2 reasons. Firstly, it's Frank Lapidus, and Frank Lapidus is a badass. What Senior Chang is to Community, Frank Lapidus is to Lost, which is to say, he can't be killed. And the second reason I love this quote is because it shows the attitude that the characters have regarding the events that are happening to them. I mean, in this moment, Lapidus acknowledges the fact that his life is never going to be normal again, and yet he still pilots that plane, he still flies it exactly where it needs to be. Even though it's a terrible inconvenience to his life, he accepts his fate with grace. 4. They come, they fight, they destroy, they corrupt. It always ends the same. It only ends once. Anything that happens before that is just progress. This quote encompasses a conversation between 2 characters who become extremely important in the last season of Lost. I won't say who they are in case there's anyone watching who hasn't seen it and doesn't want spoilers. But the point of this quote is that even though some endeavor seems pointless, it always seems to end the same way no matter how many times you try it, there's always going to be another chance to do it better. I mean, by conventional wisdom, that is kind of close to insanity, but still. 3. If we can't live together, we're gonna die alone. This is an early example of the really great writing of Lost. In the episode unsurprisingly titled Live Together, Die Alone, Jack sprouts this little piece of wisdom in order to maintain his group's integrity and not allow them to tear themselves apart. After all, he realizes that he can't survive on the island by himself, and he's gonna need the help of others, and others are gonna need his help if they want to survive. 2. See you in another life, brother. 2 words for you. Desmond Hume. 1 more word. Badass. Now, I realize that I've already used the badass card on Frank Lapidus, but Desmond is pretty damn badass too. And this quote, a recurring one for his character, takes on an eerie sort of poignancy when he does meet the other characters in another life, brother. At least figuratively speaking, it's another life in the sense that none of them are in the conditions or circumstances that they were in when they originally met Desmond. And number 1. We have to go back. Now, I've chosen this as my favorite quote because it shows the exact point in time, in my opinion, when Jack finally grows as a character. In Man of Science, Man of Faith, he has a revealing discussion with John Locke where John Locke says, "Why do you find it so hard to believe?" And Jack responds, "Why do you find it so easy?" But by the time he utters the line, "We have to go back," he's realized that he has a destiny. He has a purpose on the island. Also, from the strict viewpoint of a viewer, holy crap, what a moment. Nobody saw the circumstances regarding this quote coming at all. So, that concludes the list of my favorite 5 quotes from Lost, but a quick note on people who want to hate on the ending. Lost is a great example of a postmodern television show. Now, I know that people don't really like to get into the specifics of terms like postmodern, but suffice it to say, one central pillar of postmodernism is that meaning is always to be questioned. The postmodernists recognize the fact that anything that you gather through your senses is at least once removed from actuality through your experience. Example, I can't see my computer, technically speaking, right now. What I can see is the light traveling through the air between my computer and me. I know that this argument is, practically speaking, just semantics, but the postmodernists took it a lot farther. They believe that in storytelling, experience is something that overrides truth. And so, with something like Lost, we don't have to have all of the answers all of the time. All we have to do is experience the show, experience the mystery regarding all of these questions. And that's what you were talking about in your last video when you said that you're kind of sad for people who watch it all in one go, because they don't get to go through that experience the same way that we did. Second side note regarding the ending of Lost. If there are people who are interested in learning a lot more about this kind of worldview, there's a TED Talk given by J.J. Abrams, the creator of Lost, that you should definitely check out. But moving on, it's time for another Steve special presentation. This one being the second part in my several-part series, A Day in the Life. So, as I always say, without any further ado, A Day in the Life Part 2. Mondays have a special routine because they're the day that I go out to the library. With my shoes on and my bag packed, I start off the long journey by putting in my headphones so that I have something to listen to while I'm walking. With play pressed, it's time to head outdoors and start the long, long journey. I walk. And walk. And then, if you can believe it, I walk some more. But then sometimes I stop and wait. I'm in the shadow of something seen on a silver screen, and I know I'm out of luck. Well, days go by, weeks, months, and years. But then I start walking again. Led to the now and here. That is, until I end up here, at my local thrift shop, where they sell books for really, really, really low prices. But then, when I've gone through their selection of books and made my choices for which ones I want to buy, I start to walk again. But eventually, I arrive at this place, which you may recognize from another angle as the Woodstock Public Library. And after making a few selections for what movies or books I want to rent for the week, you guessed it, I start walking again, to my local newfangled Tim Hortons, which just got renovated. And then, after nearly 2.5 hours of constant walking, I arrive back where I started, at home. Where I unbundle and go through my day's haul, including Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte, Watership Down by Richard Adams, and The Poisonwood Bible by Barbara Kingsolver. I also rented 30 Days of Night, and The Truman Show from the library. And of course, there's my extra-large regular from Timmy's. By now, I'm pretty tired, so the rest of the day consists of a pretty solid regimen of video games,
this may be our last chance of getting out of here alive, Isaac.
Movies, and of course, reading. Then, 5 o'clock rolls around, and it's time for supper and some television. Every day, I watch Wheel of Fortune and Jeopardy! And on Mondays, that's followed by How I Met Your Mother, which unfortunately only has 1 episode left. So once it's over, my Monday routine is essentially complete. And now for Battleship. Your move of H8 was a miss, and I retaliate with D4. And with that done, let me end by breaking your heart with one more Lost reference.